In this video, I'm going to show you how to make this pizza ordering app. And we're actually going to make two different versions. So there's an easy version, and then there's a version with a few extras added on. So let me show you the easy version first. As you can see, we have a login screen to begin with. Now my username is user1, and my password is I'm hungry. Now I'm just going to put an X on there because I want to show you that if you try and log in with the wrong details, it won't let you do it. So let's type in user1 again, and I'm hungry. And now we're onto the screen where you get to choose how big you want your pizza to be. So you can choose between small, medium, large, extra large. I'm feeling hungry. Click the next button, and now we can select from some different toppings. Then we have a screen that confirms all of the things that you've selected, and finally you can click order. Now let's have a look at the slightly more complex version. So again, the username is user1. I'm going to show you what happens if you type in an incorrect password again. This time we actually get a little try again that appears on the button. Let me log in correctly. User1, I am hungry. Notice how the button turned green? Okay, so now we're going to choose our pizza size again. This time, when you select your pizza size, the actual image enlarges. Choose some toppings. This time, notice how a little green tick appears next to each of the toppings to confirm that it's worked. Next screen. This time, it tells us how much our pizza costs. And finally, when I order, the image of the pizza is rotating, which just helps to make it look that little bit more interesting for the user. Okay, so let's head over to App Lab and create this. The first thing I'm going to do, of course, is rename my project. So I'm going to call this Pizza Time. Go straight to the Design tab, and we need to name our first screen. So this is actually going to be the login screen. And I'm going to keep the background of my app white, which actually also makes it a little bit easier when it comes to finding images and things. But if you wanted to change the background of your app, you could do that here. But of course, you need to make sure that any images you use have transparent backgrounds. Otherwise, you'll end up with white boxes everywhere. So I'm going to keep that on white. Now, my home screen needs to have my company logo. And to create that, I'm actually going to just use Google Drawing. If you just want to quickly put a logo together, Google Drawing is perfect for that. So I'm going to use the built-in image search. Pizza cartoon. And there's the one that I used before, so let's reuse that. Now the great thing about working in Google Drawing like this is that it makes it really easy for me to just double click and crop an image. So sometimes when you find an image through a Google search that you want to use, you might find that actually there's a lot of space around it that you don't want. So using Google Drawing, nice, quick, easy way to just crop it like that. Okay, and I want there to be some text under this, so use a text box. And I'm going to call it Pizza Time. And I want to change the size and the font that I'm using. So I'm going to head up here to the fonts. And if you go to more fonts, you can choose from hundreds of different fonts that are available in Google Fonts. And if you go to this filter here and choose display, it will show you the ones that are, kind of more interesting to look at. Now I've actually already got a font that I want to use. I'm going to increase the font size. Keyboard shortcut for that, by the way, is Control Shift and the more than sign. And I'm going to change the color so that it kind of matches the color scheme that I'm going for. And then finally, I'm just going to grab the canvas corner here and just kind of slice off all the empty space that I don't need. There we go. So that's going to be my finished logo. I'm going to head up here and call it logo, because that way when I go to File, Download, PNG, it will actually give the file that name. Okay, so let's head back to our app and go ahead and drop that image in. So I'm going to drag in an image, head over to the Choose button and click Upload File. So here it is. Let's double click it, and then I have to choose it from my assets. And let's just enlarge that a little bit, pop it in the middle, and there we go. So the next thing that I need to do is create the username and password input field. So I'm going to drag on a text input. Let's call this username input. And for the placeholder, this is the text that appears in the box for the user, so they know what they're supposed to type into that box. And feel free to leave yours exactly as it is now, but I'm going to customize mine just a little bit. I'm going to make it a little bit taller, like that. I'm going to remove the border altogether. I'm going to increase my border radius just a little bit, and I might increase my font size as well. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I don't want to have to redo all of that style though, so what I can do now is simply click the duplicate button to make a copy of it, and then of course I just need to edit this so that the placeholder is password, and a good name for this would be password input. And then finally, I need a button for the user to click to log in. So I'm going to drag on a button. Let's give this a good name, like login button. I want the text to say log in, and I definitely want to change the style so that it matches this red theme that I'm going for. So let's remove the border again. We'll change the color to that kind of reddy color like that, and I'm going to increase the border radius to make it look more rounded like that. So that's my login screen complete. Let's go ahead and create the size screen. So head up here, new screen, give it a good name, like size screen. Now on here, I want there to be some text that says choose your size. So let's drag on a text box. Just make that a little bit bigger. Choose your size. Now I don't need to worry about the ID for this because there's going to be nothing in my code that changes this text in any way. So I'm quite happy with just label 1. But I'm going to go ahead and change some of the options here. So let's go for that kind of red color again. I'm going to increase the font size a little bit. There we go. And now what I need to do is create myself a drop-down box. So let's go ahead and put a drop-down here. Let's give this a sensible name. So I'm going to call it size drop-down. Now the options that the user chooses from: small, medium, large, and extra large. I'm going to try and make this look a bit like the inputs on my first screen. So I'm going to remove the border. I'm going to change the background color to a kind of soft gray. So something like that. I might just increase the height a little bit. And perhaps just a little bit of border radius. And maybe the font size a bit more as well. I'm going to move that down a little bit because, of course, I want there to be a picture of a pizza above this. And I also need there to be a button that moves on to the next screen. I'm not going to recreate that button though, because what I can do is go to the login screen where I already have a perfectly good button, click on it, and then go copy to screen, size screen. That creates a copy of that button on my size screen. All I need to do now, of course, is give this one its own name. So this is going to be size button, and of course change the text that's on it. And this is just going to say next. So now I want to go ahead and find myself a nice picture of a whole pizza that I can put here. So for this, I think I'll just do a Google image search, and I've actually already been and found one that I like. This is a perfect example of what I was saying earlier about how sometimes you find the right picture, but it's got space around it. This picture is quite tall. It's got white above and below the pizza, which I kind of need to crop off. So actually what I'm going to do is copy this image, head back to Google Drawing and create a new one, and paste this in, because now I can double click and crop. And I've noticed that this image that I've found has actually got a shadow on it. So what I'm going to do, because it's a circle, I'm going to head up here to the mask image option and actually crop my image inside a circle. There we go. I mean, that's completely optional. You don't have to do that. So let me go ahead and just crop down the picture. And that's my pizza. So let's head up here. And I'm going to call this Big Pizza. File, download, PNG. There it is. Head back to my app. And now I can go ahead and drag on an image. Upload. Big Pizza. Choose the image. And there it is. So that's the size screen done. The next screen is the screen where you choose your toppings. So up here, new screen, straight away give it a name. Toppings screen. Now I want a label at the top that says choose your toppings. I think I might just go back to my size screen and click on that label and copy it to the topping screen. There it is. So let's change this to choose your toppings. Just make sure it's in the middle. And now I need a series of drop-down boxes. And you guessed it, I'm going to head back to my size screen because I have a perfectly good drop-down box that I created here. So I'm going to copy to screen, topping screen. Here it is. And now in here, I have to type out all of the toppings that the user can add to their pizza. But the thing is, I don't want this screen to appear with mushrooms, 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 because that's the first option. So what I'm actually going to do is set the first option to simply choose a topping. And then after that, I can go ahead and type them all out. So feel free to put whatever toppings you like. And of course, once you've created that, we can go ahead and duplicate it to make the other three. Now each of these needs to have a specific ID. So I'm going to call this one Topping Drop 1. Topping Drop 2. Topping Drop 3. And topping drop 4. And of course, I need to have that button again. So I'm just going to go back to one of my previous screens, select the button, copy to screen, toppings, and there we go. So onto the next screen. So this is the screen where they get to confirm their order. So I'm going to call it. So I'm going to call it confirm screen. And you guessed it, I'm going to copy some bits across from previous screens. So let's go to the size screen. I'm going to grab this label here and copy that across to the confirm screen. And then instead of choose your size, let's put confirm your order, something like that. Now what I need is a whole load of text labels down the side for the size and topping 1, topping 2, topping 3, topping 4, and also a load of labels next to them, which will actually contain the size of the pizza and the toppings that they've chosen. So I'm going to create one of them for you and then kind of fast forward until I have all of them done. So let's click on this one at the top and duplicate it. And this one is going to become the label for the size of the pizza. So let me change this to size. I'm actually going to change the alignment so that it's right aligned. And I definitely want that to be a little bit wider. So by setting it to right aligned, it means that as I create all of the other titles underneath here, they're all going to line up nicely. Okay, so now let's create the one that goes next to it. So I'm just going to duplicate this again. And actually I'm going to set this back to be left aligned. And for this, I don't want it to be the red color. So let's set this to be, I don't know, like a dark gray kind of color like that. And I'm going to move that to about there. So now what I'm going to do is fast forward to the point where I've got all of the headings for toppings 1, 2, 3, and 4 with the text boxes next to them. Okay, so I've finished making all of my headings and text boxes. So what I need to do now is actually give all of the ones that are grey an ID, because in my code, I'm going to be changing the text that's in these based on what the user has chosen. So for this first one here, I'm going to call it confirm size. This one I'll call confirm top 1. Confirm top 2. There we go. And of course, I need another button. So let's head back to one of the screens that already has a button, and we'll just copy that over to the confirm screen. And we'll change the text to order, and we'll give this a good name. Confirm button. And finally, we'll go ahead and make the screen that shows up when your pizza has been ordered. So new screen. I'm going to call this order screen. And what I'm going to do here is actually use the same image of the big pizza. So let's go back to the size screen, copy this over to the order screen, and let's make it a little bit bigger. And I also want there to be some text underneath. So let's just go ahead and grab some text from a different screen. And this is going to say, your order is on its way. And let's change the alignment to centered. Make the box a bit bigger. There we go. So that's all of the screens created for our app. And of course, now it's time to actually make it all work. So let's head over to the code tab and start coding this. Now remember, it doesn't really matter what screen you're viewing over here. The code that you create doesn't belong to a particular screen. The code that you make is for the whole app, but it is definitely helpful to see the screen that you're currently trying to code. So let's start with the login screen. Okay, so let's think about how this works. The basic idea is that when the user clicks the login button, it checks to see if what they've typed into username and password are acceptable. So I'm going to drag on event, click, and I want this to be the login button. And whatever I put inside here, this will happen when the user clicks on the login button. So what I want to do is check to see if, and I'm going to head to the math section and grab an is equal to. I want to check to see whether the text that we get from the username input is equal to, and I'm going to type in quotes, the username that I'm looking for. So I'm going to put user1. So if the text from username input is equal to user1, I'm then going to repeat that. Say now check to see if is equal to get text from the password input is equal to, and then type in the password. I'm hungry. So whatever I put inside this final if here, this will only happen if the username and the password both match what I'm expecting them to match. And of course, what I want to happen, I want to set the screen to the size screen. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this. Run. So if I type in any old nonsense, nothing happens. But if I type in things that match user1 and I'm hungry, it goes to the size screen. Okay, so let's hit reset and carry on. So let me show the size screen and we'll go ahead and make this work. So here on the easy version of the app, there's actually no coding required. Nothing actually happens when the user changes this drop down. So all we need to code at this point is the button, just to make sure that when you click it, it goes to the toppings page. So let me scroll back up. A new event. This time it's going to be the size button. When you click the size button, all I need it to do is to set the screen to the topping screen. There we go. So let's head over to the topping screen. What do I want to happen here? Well, actually, at this point, it's exactly the same as the previous one. I don't need anything special to happen when the user selects a topping. All I need this screen to do is move on to the next screen when they click next. So let's repeat what we did before. We're going to say on event, And this time it's going to be the toppings button. But actually it looks like I might have forgotten to name that button. This is a good illustration of why it's important to do that. I've got no way of selecting this button right here with my code. So let's go back to design, and I'm going to click on the button and call this toppings button. So now if I go back to my code, I should be able to hit this drop down box again. And there we go. So when the toppings button is clicked, I want it to set the screen to the confirm screen. Now we definitely do need some code on this screen because of course we don't want the user to just see size, topping 1, topping 2. We want this screen to show them all of the options that they chose on the previous screens. So let's have a look at how we do that. So in the UI controls we have this option for set text, and this allows you to change the text of the elements on your page using code. And if I hover over these, it reminds me what the ID is for these different elements. So this one here is confirm size. So I'm going to change the text of confirm size. Now in here, I could type in a value like medium, but obviously that's not going to work because it would just set it to be medium no matter what. I need this to change to whatever they chose on the size screen. Now remember that on the size screen, they used this drop-down box, which is called size drop-down. So what I need to do is actually get the text from that drop-down box. So let's go back to the confirm screen, go back to our code. So in here, instead of this being medium, what I'm going to do is get the text from the size drop-down. And of course, I'm going to repeat that same process now for all of the toppings as well. So I'm going to set the text, and it's this one here, which is called confirm top 1. So set the text for confirm top 1, and what I need to set it to is the text that I get from topping drop 1. That was the drop down box for the first topping. And to speed things up a little bit, I'm not going to keep creating those. I'm actually going to drag up like that and use Control-C to copy. And if I look to see where this little black line is, this is where my cursor is. And if I just do Control-V, you'll see it'll paste one in and again and again. And now I've got 4 of them, and I can quite easily now change these so that this one is confirm top 2, this one can be confirm top 3, and this one is confirm top 4. And obviously this one needs to be set to topping drop 2, and this one topping drop 3, and this one topping drop 4. So let's go ahead and give this a quick test and make sure that it works. So type in user 1. And I'm hungry. Choose myself large, and let's just choose them in order so we can check this works. Mushrooms, onions, peppers, tomatoes, and there you go. You can see that it tells us exactly all the options that we've chosen. And then finally, of course, I need the order button, which is on the confirm screen, which has the ID confirm button. That needs to go to the last screen. So let's add one final on event. When the confirm button is clicked, we want it to set the screen to the order screen. Okay, so let's do one final test. Type in the username and password, log in, choose a pizza, pick some toppings, and now let's confirm our order, and there we go. So that's the basic version of the app finished. And I'll do a second video showing you how to add in all of those more complex features.